I'm in my yoga class and I get a text from Lana saying, "It's Lana, call me when you can." And I was like, I'm just about to start the yoga class. And I was like, okay, great, I'm in yoga class. And then I got out and just sat in my car. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And she was like, we're talking and just talking. And I was like, so, so lovely to hear from her. And then she told me, you're never gonna believe it, but I wrote this script. And she explained to me how she was inspired to write it. And I was just like, I literally went home and told my husband, I think I just started crying. I was just so excited about the possibility. People would always say to me, is there gonna be another Matrix just on people on the street and I would think, no, absolutely not. Never in a million years would I have ever thought we would be doing this again, that I'd be. Sometimes I wonder if I'm actually in the Matrix doing the Matrix. If I'm actually, this is my dream world, is the experience. Sometimes it feels that otherworldly, that dream-like for me, because it's such an incredible experience. And sometimes I just pinch myself and can't really believe it's happening. And that it's almost over, because you realize when you've had something like this, 20-something years ago, that you really don't, it doesn't happen very often. So to get to be here again, to have another chance to do it, with all the growth that all of us have had since then and all the ways that we've changed and grown, it's really pretty incredible. I had to work really hard to come back, and the most important thing to me was that I didn't do it from any kind of desperation, to be someone I used to be, right? So I, trained, and I had stamina to get to and strength to find. And I mean, it took a long time. I try to, in the moment, not think too much at all, to just really let everything go. And it's just kind of effortless for me to work with him. There's something on almost like a soul level. There's something about working with him for me that feels like home in a way, or it's so, I don't know, it doesn't matter if we haven't talked or maybe I haven't been in a scene for weeks, I haven't seen him and he's been here working, and then just come there and bring the circumstances to it, and it's just like there. It's almost overwhelming at times. I find, because I don't know, we have such history, right? And such a deep friendship and care for each other. And it's so genuine and not based on anything other than just respect and integrity and compassion and care, That then so you have that already, and then you bring, what Lana has created for the characters and how much we both love these characters. I mean, I think quite a few times we'd both just start crying just because it's so deeply moving for us, Neo and Trinity. We love them. I think very similar to how I felt with the first, second, and third. There's so many layers of unfolding and understanding that I probably will be doing 20 years from now. Because Lana is such a deep and layered filmmaker and artist. And nothing is just as it looks to be. Every piece is so multifaceted. So yeah, and then I'm still discovering. I was looking at in the scene that I'm shooting, I have 2 children that are there, and I looked at one of them and I was like, wow, he could totally be Keanu's kid. And I was like, oh, it's everything has so much layered meaning. I love Tiffany, actually. I think she's pretty cool. She is a mother and a wife and has a love for motorcycles, which is so fun. And we discover through her conversations with Thomas Anderson that she senses that something isn't quite right with her life. But I actually really like her a lot. I love when she discovers that she's more than that she discovers that she is Trinity. I love that moment. It's so fierce, and hopefully I hit it well. It's interesting with all the action, I really look to Keanu as a teacher. He's so gifted in this genre, and he has such an ability with his body to tell story. And I joke that we should make a master class of him teaching people because he's so good. And I didn't know that back then. I knew he did a great job, but I didn't understand, his mastery is just really unbelievable. And so I really look to him all the time. It just makes sense. When I saw the name Chad, I was just it made me laugh, and then it was actually Chad, and what's really beneficial for me is just to be able to fight Chad, because someone like me fighting someone, it really helps when you fight someone good. They make you look really good. Well, I think it's really funny, and I think that the story is going to just blow their minds. Especially, well, it's interesting because there's going to be that whole group of people who've already seen it, right? So many. But there's a whole group that maybe haven't. And so maybe people will discover it, the younger generation. It's going to be, I don't know. What do you think?
It has evolved, and the first three were very, very stylized. They were very sort of tight in a way. Everything was, perfect, and that showed in the films themselves. And it produced a look that I think that was unique at the time. And when you combine that with the actual nature of what the film was, it was quite startling that could be done, and that it could be done in a way that it just stayed absolutely sort of where it was supposed to be in terms of the technical things. And I don't think people had really seen that, something like that just sort of is so perfect for so long, Some things are sort of always the same, and in a sense that they're between both of them is that sort of pushing, wanting something new, knowing there is something out there that hasn't been done before, or is done in a more interesting way, or is it just something that they want to do? And it was moving. If you jump from the original Matrix films to Sense8, it was, in a way, you're going to a totally different space, So the first time the script came out, and we went up to Lana and Karen's house, had some nice lunch, and then sort of everybody had read the script, and just talking it around the room, we were sort of really just sort of testing a lot of that, and but the result of the reading of that first script, I think, just hooked everybody straight away. Lana was very much looking for an aesthetic that, while that would reference the original films, but leave space for it to be a different film. It's not number 4. It is, and I think for me, it was reading that first script. Because it was sort of all there right from that maybe it moved up but down and pieces move around, but what I felt, and I think everybody else that read it, is sort of honouring the films that went before. I love the film across board. I love I just love the gentleness in it. I love the humour in it. I love the way that Lana has been able to construct the look and feel in a way that allows me to sort of see, to basically link with the past. A lot of these people have been with us for a long time, and as such we've become very close. This is something that sort of you can't make, it just evolves, and we just worked for this group of people, and it's meant a lot to all of those people because of a number of things. You keep together a group of people that you trust, and everybody just turns up these days, and get to work. You want to attract people who have seen the film, but also you want to then sort of have a sort of a layer of people that have seen it, or then there's the next one of some next group of people come up and find it and follow through.
I remember having a really great time. I remember being a new mother and being in awesome shape because of the training. And I just remember being so excited to be part of the project because I had auditioned for Trinity. And I remember when I first saw all the materials around the Matrix, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, And so then to receive the opportunity that I could actually be part of the franchise as Niobe was like really a treat. I had heard rumblings of like, oh, there's gonna be another Matrix. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, you hear rumblings. I didn't take it to be true, because nothing had been confirmed or anything like that. And then I got a call saying that Lana wanted to talk to me. And I was like, okay. I thought it might have been, I didn't know what it was about. And so when I talked to her, and she was like, we're doing, another Matrix. I want to bring Niobe back. And so we had, an in-depth conversation about it. I was like, absolutely, I would love to join you and the cast for another go at the Matrix. I feel as though Niobe always had a tender side. I'll never forget the moment between she and Morpheus. I think it was in the third, was it the third installment or the second? Anyway, she and Morpheus have a moment, and it was just a second, where you could kind of see the more feminine, that other side of herself that was a bit more warm, but she's always been a soldier first, and I think in her younger years, that was very much, what was on the surface, and she really didn't have time to feel, where I think as she's gotten older, as we all do, we mature, we learn more about life. So the prosthetics help a lot in regards to helping me feel into the 90-year-old Niobe. You realize that as time goes on, how your body changes. It just doesn't do the things that it used to do, right? And so I'm just thinking about a Niobe that's been to war. She's got a big scar on her face. I'm feeling like I had this hip thing she actually needs a hip replacement and won't get one. So it was just all those things, you know, and having the makeup really helped me channel into the 90-year-old version of her. I love that Lana made Niobe older, you know, because, and I'm going to tell you what I loved most about it was that she is an older woman, a much older woman that is leading this city, you know, of IO, and the level of respect and how I look at Niobe as being the, you know, she's the OG. You know what I'm saying? And she's honored in that way. And you have all of her young soldiers. Well, the one thing that I will say that is different about IO than Zion is that it is a collaboration, you know, in a way that Zion was not. And so we find her leading IO and having to deal with the return of Neo. I've been able to see Key here and there, you know, but it's been really a good time, you know, because most of my scenes are with him. And so it's been really nice in front of the camera, behind the camera to catch up, you know, because, you know, since we've done The Matrix, we were in Canada together while he was shooting a movie with my son Jaden, and so, like I said, we've seen each other, you know, over the years, but I hadn't seen him in a while, you know, and so it was nice to catch up with my old friend. I think people will like the simple fact that one of their most beloved franchises is back. Because people already, without having any freaking idea of what the movie is about, are so excited, you know? And it is a beloved franchise.
I think what I remember the most about the original films are those really pivotal shots, the ones which are GIFs. Bullet time, Neo shaking off the white sort of dust in the underground station. Agent Smith, yeah, I remember moments. I kind of had a moment where I thought about giving up the industry, actually. And I was on this long hike, I was on this 40-day hike, and I finished it, and I got a phone call saying, Lana Wachowski wants you to fly to Berlin to test. And it lured me back. How can you say no? How can you say no? Yeah, when we began, we were really into this idea of paying homage to Kenshin, which is this Japanese character who is very spry and fast, and that was really what I wanted for Bugs, kind of like a bunny. Close to the ground, really snappy, faster than everyone else, smarter. I wanted her to fight very, very intelligently. That was a challenge when we got to the factory because the location I was fighting in was so tiny, I couldn't run circles around anyone because I was trapped. And yeah, that had its own obstacles. Bugs is us. Bugs is a fan of Neo. She's a fan of The Matrix. That's the crazy thing. She's one of us. She loves seeing him in the same way that the audience will be yearning to see Neo. She has that same yearning, and when she sees him and he's saying the lines and he's in the costume, she's having the pinch me fan moment that I feel like the audience will be having in the cinema. But in the story, Bugs is a young captain. She's one of the youngest captains in Niobe's fleet, and she is a true believer. She thinks that Neo is still alive. She saw him. No one else believes her. I love working with Keanu. He's so sweet. He's such a dream. And the first day that I had with him in San Francisco, he had one line. It's in Sati's Grove, and he said something like,
how? Or maybe it was why. It was a one-word line. And seeing him there in his costume and hearing the voice and hearing him say the dialogue, and I had to say Neo, it was such a surreal moment. And I don't really fangirl for actors that I work with or that I meet, but that was one of those moments where I went, oh my God, it's Keanu Reeves.
She's definitely the most fascinating director I've ever worked with. The way that she runs a set, she doesn't cut. We do long running takes, 20, 30 minutes of just one scene without cutting. And I like that because it keeps the rhythm of the set. And it keeps you on your toes, because you think it could be their coverage, but she could just swivel the camera around and suddenly it's your coverage. So you have to really be on your A game. Yeah, it feels wild, almost a guerrilla way of making a huge blockbuster. First of all, just the nostalgia of having Keanu play Neo. It's amazing. I think people will but I actually think that people will really like the directional change that Lana's taken. She's not just tried to make the original film again. Tonally, it's different. There are new characters. Yeah, it feels more updated for modern times.
The logical part of my brain goes, but the idea of throwing a punch at someone's face, I've read in the script, and then I punch the analyst and his teeth go flying, or let alone an entire fight that I have with Neo in the bathroom, where I have these dramatic lines, and then we're doing this fight and I'm beating him up. That aspect of it seemed crazy to me. Then as it got closer and I read it more and I started to learn the lines and I started to go to training and I started to understand this world of the Matrix, I started to find my way into it. I would say that I personally didn't have a strategy. I was just trying to learn the moves. I didn't even know what I was doing. But I would say that the fight team, thankfully, and Lana had a strategy for Smith where it's brutalistic and it's strong and it's strong, heavy punches as opposed to Keanu's style, which is more smooth and fluid. That was sort of the difference that they wanted to see. And that was something that Lana had articulated and that Don had also articulated to me. So we worked a lot on posture and, hitting hard when you hit, flowing through. And the thing I still struggle with is flowing through and then hitting hard when you're hitting. Because I tend to get, if I'm hitting hard, it can make me kind of robotic. But yeah, that was it was big. So when we were in the first rehearsal, when we were sort of talking hypothetically about what the fight in the bathroom might be with Keanu, she's like, Keanu's like, ba, 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 and then Smith is like, ba, and then it's like, da, 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 ba. And when she would describe Keanu, it was faster moves, and then Smith comes in with Keanu is really funny. And Keanu, the thing that strikes me about, that's one of the many things that's very striking about Keanu, is his commitment to what he's doing, but also his deep level of self-awareness. It's so sweet too to watch Lana and Keanu together because it's like, I think they're the oldest friends on the entire set. They've known each other the longest. And she'll say something to him and he'll be like, yeah. The thing that I would like the most, that I imagine a lot of people are gonna like, that just makes me wanna cry, is seeing Keanu and Carrie-Anne together again. To me, that when Lana's showing us some of the sort of clips that she'd put together in San Francisco at the rap party in San Francisco, just seeing the two of them, we have such an image of them in our mind, and seeing the two of them together is just really emotional because it's nostalgic, but then at the same time they're so alive and virile and wearing the last 20 years on themselves and in their connection to each other, that it's not just nostalgia. It's not just, oh, a look back at the past. It's profound. You see the time that has changed and where we're at now and how things are different, and it's them together, and it just means a lot.
Cloud Atlas was a real breakthrough for me artistically, and then Sense8 was probably the most autobiographical thing that is really me that I've made. And I wanted this to bring that same heart to the trilogy, that the trilogy is a really beautiful love and the struggle of human beings and the meaning of our lives is all in there, and I was struggling with it all when I was young. And but I wanted this older self, this older heart to be a part of the Matrix trilogy. That's one of the reasons I wanted to go back. I think about things like aesthetically, Bullet Time was this desire to decouple time and space in cinema because they're so linked. And I was trying to look for a freedom that didn't exist for this character. And that character is trying to, get free of the system of control that is also true for cameras and movement in space. And I was like, I just want to move a camera in a way that's faster than a camera can travel in our thus learned aesthetic minds. And this is why we both wanted to come back, because the Matrix changed our lives. Making the Matrix was a life-changing experience, and it taught us something really profound about making art. Making art is transformational. If you bring your heart and everything in it, it changes you. It was beautiful to watch Keanu as this older, like he's the perfect age to do this right now, just like we're the perfect age. Everything about it seems to be just in focus in a way, and he's at this cusp age where if he was too much older it wouldn't be possible, and if he was too much younger it wouldn't have as much weight and resonance. And you see Carrie and Keanu reflecting that in this way that is only possible because of the time that has passed, and the way that you can feel temporality and mortality in that passing time. You knew who you were, and you knew who you were as an artist, and there were actual shots that I said, okay, I kind of have an idea of what that shot was. I'm not going to go watch the trilogy, I just kind of know what the shot is. And I'm going to kind of do that shot again in a way that tells you that I'm doing that shot again, but I literally can't make it the way I made it before. I mean, it's like a cliche, you can't step in a stream or whatever, million cliches about it, but you can see how different I am as like a person, as an artist in every frame. It's like crazy how different it is, even though I'm kind of trying to do things that are, I wouldn't say nostalgic, but are about the creation of this piece of art from my past again. It's like I'm purposely doing it again to say something about the way that we do things again and again and again in our lives.
And to mark the difference.
And to mark the difference of how the againness is never again. This is what also we discovered on Cloud Atlas, and then we all discovered more on Sense8, that the way that we work is not broken into these compartmentalized sections of filmmaking. That it used to be very compartmentalized, like you did the prep and you did the shoot and you did the second unit shoot, and the first unit and second unit almost never, they don't even interact. They're like over there, and then you assemble it and the cut, and then you start to do music, and then you start to do sound, you know, and it's all this like, and the way that we work now, especially bringing music all in the beginning, is just like a constant folding. It's like, it's how you make a great croissant. It's just like you just keep layering butter in. And the music had a great, shiny, you know, Don Davis' score, which is so beautifully, such a beautiful layer on the sort of precision of the movie, and maybe what I'm looking for is more messiness. What we keep saying is like more humanness, more messiness, and that's kind of what we started groping towards, like away from the precision of it and more into something that is, I would say, that it has a complexity. My art all comes from this emotional place, and I think about things intellectually, but it's all led by this emotion, this desire to say something about my heart to other people's hearts, and that became more and more clear through my career. I have tried to bring more of my life into my art and my art into my life. I really try to bring them together. And what's great to be here is that the Matrix sort of brought us all together in a way.
I'm trying to think of the very first time I saw the first movie. It was in the cinema, and it was such a zeitgeist, like, litmus shift from other films. The lore was so impressive, and it spoke to these questions of autonomy, and are we in control of ourselves, and what's really happening in the world in such a profound and yet graphic novel kind of way. I don't know, I love the sci-fi, so yeah, I was in pretty hook, line, and sinker at the first movie. I loved the script. There were a lot of chunks that I just didn't understand at all, but I thought that was okay. I understood my parts, which I guess was most important. I remember her telling me, sort of dreaming and thinking about Phoenix rising from the ashes, about two people coming back for, you know, another chance at connection, and so I thought that was an interesting call, so that it didn't. I appreciated that it didn't feel like this was just a movie that we might as well make it because why not? It felt like that it was rooted in something. Thankfully, Keanu is nothing like the action star asshole that he deserves to be. I found him to be an absolute pro. He's on set all the time. He's a crazy hard worker. When we were in San Francisco, I would see him in the courtyard, walking around by himself, just working on his lines outside, you know. He's kind of fearless, and yet he's quiet, and he doesn't need the spotlight. He doesn't need to be the life of a dinner party. He sits, he listens, he retains information. But more so on set, he's really just very professional. The swarm scenes closing off downtown San Francisco with helicopters and stunt crashes and hundreds of people running down streets, it's epic. This is one thing that I hope people retain when they're watching the making of, or even just hearing about the movie, is how much Lana valued the real stuff, the real light, the real people. I think there's an assumption that most of this would be done with CG. That I want to do my own stunt, I get to get thrown into a wall when Trinity got cha, and I go wah, boom, and so we got to practice that, and I got to smash into a wall. And they said, do it again, do it again. I said, do it again, another time. Let's do it further back. I want to really smash into the effing wall. So I'm very into it. I just find this whole process incredibly exciting. I have witnessed the craziest stuff on the daily. Big sequences, the stunt people are remarkable, the acting people are stalwart actors that have never looked or acted better, and young, up-and-coming actors who are about to explode in ways that I am very excited to watch. It's a deep honor to be a part of it, not only the human side of it, but the technical side of it. To get to sit and observe would be a dream for anyone. The technology alone has advanced a lot in the time since the last movies have been out. And so I'm most excited to see a new story being told in the biggest way possible. And hopefully when this movie comes out, people will be able to see it on the biggest screen possible. It deserves this kind of scope. This is not a movie that you want to watch the first time on an airplane. So I'm very anxious to see people's reactions to how different this film will be from its predecessors, and hopefully how excited they'll be at the journey that was taken.
Complicated world. No one will ever understand it the way Lana does, of course. And I didn't even attempt it because it's just setting myself up for failure. Every time you watch the movies, every time you watch the trilogy, there's something else that pops. And when you talk to her about it, to understand how she created that world is phenomenal. I cannot begin to understand it at all. But obviously being a part of the Matrix in itself, it's such an iconic part of cinema, of entertainment, that it was my honor to be picked to play this part. I definitely think that Matrix was a global phenomenon. It wasn't just restricted to the United States, I mean, I was in India and I know we all watched it. I know when we traveled, you watched it on TV in any country you go to, even now. I mean, I catch it on TV so often in multiple countries around the world. So I think what made Matrix the cultural phenomenon globally that it did was it had a very human instinct in the storytelling. And that's like, the credit definitely goes to the creators to think like that and to be able to create a world where you push people to think of a new thought. And that's so hard to do when, human beings, by nature, we get hardened by, like, I know everything is something that we start very young with that. But I feel like the fact that the humanness of the question in itself, it affected and it related to everyone around the world, because it's like, really, what's the world we're creating? I found out from the trade, as everyone does, that The Matrix 4 was being made, and it was super exciting and everyone was buzzing about it. And then my agents called me to go in and read for the movie, and I think I was more intimidated by this process than I have been in any of the work I've ever done in my whole life. My whole life. And that's 20 years in the business now. Just her presence and it's not because she speaks to you with kindness and she has a general empathy for humans, but because you're fascinated by the words that come out of her mouth. And I was enraptured. I was just like, when she spoke about the movie, when she spoke about the landscape, about my character, about me, I was just enamored, and I was intimidated in the most exhilarating way. And I'm really grateful that under her tutelage I got this opportunity. No matter how much I tried to educate myself about the universe of The Matrix, there's no way I could know it. There was no way I could know it completely at the back of my hand. In fact, that was so liberating because I knew that I didn't have to. Lana would just take me wherever I needed to go. And that was sort of liberating, but it was so intimidating. The first time I remember sitting in front of her and James, and it was in San Francisco, and I'd flown in from India. It was an overnight flight just for this meeting, and then I was flying to LA. And I remember walking into the room, and right before that I had skimmed The Matrix again. I was like, just in case someone asks me. The most fun part, I think, for most people who are fans of The Matrix would be to see the characters that you have lived with for such a long time in these trilogies come back. There are a lot of these characters, and you see a lot of the relationships that are questioned again, a lot of the relationships that you're like, oh, I wonder what would happen to this character now, and you see them where they are now, and that's really fun. Like, to me, to read it and have the familiarity of being like, oh, I wonder where blah blah blah's character is at the moment, and you're just like, that's what they're doing now. It's so cool to see what she thinks.
People who weren't even born when when the trilogy was out have immersed themselves in this universe and come to love it and come to understand some aspects of the world and themselves through it. The red pill, the blue pill thing has entered the vernacular. People who have never seen The Matrix, who may even not know what it is, these are items of vocabulary that are in their active vocabulary now. We wanted elements from the trilogy back, but why do the same story? And why just do one more in a row? We wanted and Lana had a great idea for something rather more special than that. As we work, ideas we thought in the early days might be really strong, maybe are strong, but just don't belong in the movie, or they mutate into other ideas, or we get a great scene in Act 3 that's gorgeous and has to be there, but this will negate or require changes earlier on in the film. So we work like that. It's, what adjectives could I use? Holistic, organic, great fun, and I hope some of the fun that we had in the writing of the film is tangible to people who watch it as well. After the events of the trilogy, there began to rose up a faction of differently thinking machines, and there was machine-on-machine violence. The losers, the refugees, the more inclusive group, were given a home by Niobe in Io, and they not only found shelter there, but found purpose and made active contributions, such as the creation of the biosky, and conditions, thanks to the Synthients. Conditions in Io are somewhat nicer than they were in Zion. Smith has become, as in card terms, was formerly the Queen of Spades, the card you really don't want to be drawn with, and Smith's now become a kind of a joker. It can flip either way. Smith can be on your side or against your side. There's reasons within the film why this is so. Ambiguous, complex, nuanced character. His motives shift throughout the course of this film. She's one of those characters that Lily and Lana dreamt up that is bigger than the number of screen minutes they have. And we wanted to bring her back. And what would she be now in this iteration of The Matrix? How would she have survived the intervening years between then and now? Sati knew that Neo and Trinity had been reconstructed and were at the heart of this new iteration for all these decades, rather to Niobe's shock. Kujaku is a synthient who saved and preserved the life of Sati. And Kujaku is really cool. I somehow think she's a she. She's a really cool synthient. She flies. The name Kujaku is Japanese for peacock. So there's a slight peacockness to her design that I really love. The factory fight scene is an extension of the civil wars in the machine world. Some programs have fallen out of favour, some have gone lone wolf, and Smith has been able to round up a cadre of them to form his own loose Praetorian Guard. You could almost start a whole new film from that scene. It's an avenue into another aspect of the cosmology that Resurrections. That wasn't the film to explore that in. Quite a few films with Keanu Reeves in it, but I don't think I've ever seen a performance as compelling as this. There's quite a few times I think, oh my god, that's exquisite acting. Which isn't to denigrate any of his other performances in any of his other films, but he's just great in this. He is so damn good.
My first experience with The Matrix has to be sometime around when the first one came out, and I believe I saw it with my dad, and I just remember the slow motion, man. That's the most iconic thing that I remember was the slow motion, and Neo dodging the bullets and then going back home and trying to do it myself and going to school and doing it myself, and seeing it imitated all across pop culture. Just that slow motion bend back shot. I saw it in dance moves. I saw it in other movies. I saw it, music videos everywhere. I think the whole The Matrix is definitely something that's permeated all throughout our culture since it's come out. It's never had a moment where it's died down, I don't think. The whole concept of the red versus the blue pill, choice versus, blindly following the path that we're supposed to, quote unquote, take. That's been an argument that's been, all throughout culture, all throughout our culture since the, the reception of the film. You have the costume influences, the action scenes. If you even look at how the movie was made and how the movie was shot, so many people are trying to duplicate moments like the moments that came out of the first Matrix in their films, and so The Matrix definitely still has relevance up until the point, and it still will up until the point where our movie comes out and hopefully continues that legacy. The first time I heard about The Matrix 4 was maybe August of last year. I was on another set. I was filming something in August. This is 2019, and I may have seen a Deadline article or something like that. So, oh, that's really cool, Matrix, and I didn't think anything of it but The Matrix, and I thought it was cool. I can't wait to see it when it comes out. And a couple weeks later, August, September, no, maybe sometime in October, I got an email saying that there was an opportunity for me to audition for a role in The Matrix. Okay, that's cool. That's really exciting. And I get the script and I see what it, what the opportunity was. Oh wow, this is really cool. I go down and I audition, and about a week later, I got a call from Lana saying that I had an invitation to join the team, and so it was a very, very quick process for me. I knew that this was a physical film. Just going through the script, I knew that Morpheus had some really cool action moments that I was very, very excited about. So I started to get myself into really good physical shape. I didn't want to be so muscular like I had maybe for some other things that I've done in the past, Watchmen or Aquaman or things like that. I just wanted to be able to make sure that my cardio was up to par, so that I can get in there and do those fights. Morpheus is also on a journey to figure out who he is and to figure out what his role is in the world of the Matrix. He starts off as a computer program, as a computer code called Agent Smith, and he spends a portion of his existence as Agent Smith inside of a computer program, and he acts out the program or the trajectory of Agent Smith. And then Morpheus, as Agent Smith, has a moment of enlightenment where he realizes that he has a greater purpose in life. And when he gets the opportunity to do that via taking the pill and being enlightened on that journey, now Morpheus he's also a character who's figuring out his powers in the world and figuring out how much room he has, and he's a character who's newly free. The office fight was dope, man. That was Yeah, the office fight, I get to come out, got the 2 guns blazing, the glasses, the form-fitted like gold suit or something like that. Coming down with the sprinklers in the rain and things like that. So I can't wait to see that on film. One thing I love about Lana is Lana's all about that. Lana's all about the action. She's about the acting, about the storytelling. But when it comes to the action with the fights and with the guns, and she's right in there with us, making sure that we look cool and badass right there in every frame. So I'm really excited to see what that's gonna turn out to be. Man, Keanu is he's a pro, and he loves filmmaking. He loves movies, he loves his character. We go out to dinner and I look up the table and he's practicing his choreography, and that his body hurts and that that he's aching because he put the work in. If he's sore, he's earned it. You know what I mean? But he's pushing through that physically and mentally because he's so excited about what he does. It's very easy to it's hard not to be excited when you're working along someone like him, who gets up and he has a very strong high morale. Yeah, this movie was very unique in that it had a lot of returning faces. Lana uses the term, family or her movie family, and I look around and I ask around and I realize that there's a lot of people here who has worked with Lana before on the her past projects. I think that helps to it's always good for shorthand. People kind of know the operations. For me myself, I didn't understand it at first, and I said, well, what is this family thing? Everything, I think people like the adventure, they like the possibility, the world building, they like the action, they like the storytelling. I think people are very curious in this day and age about the idea that there's more to life and more to experience than what we know. And I think we're always looking for the blind spots. We're always constantly imagining the realities that we can't see. So this is a movie that I think inspires a lot of thought and inspires people to imagine what it would be like to live in a world without limitation.